This is breaking news.
As well as our Police Commissioner, Jessica Tisch, for joining us. It's great to see all of you again, and I'm particularly grateful that the Mayor and Police Commissioner found the opportunity to stand with us again on this important case. This case exemplifies the ability for the Kings County District Attorney's Office and the NYPD to coordinate together to help reduce crime and keep our city safe. I want to also acknowledge the detectives who the police commissioner will introduce or talk about, but also the prosecutors who worked very tirelessly on this case. This work is extremely difficult work in putting together past shootings and homicides, and so I am grateful for the team, in particular the prosecutors who worked very hard in this case are Omar Harding, Katerina Kuterva, and Matt Bolin, also with the supervisors who are standing here today. Today's topic, once again, is gun violence. And what we're doing here in Brooklyn, coordinating with the New York City Police Department in trying to prevent gun violence and, in fact, reduce it. Last time we got together, earlier this year, I was happy to report that 2024 was, in fact, the safest year in Brooklyn's history in terms of shooting incidents and shooting victimization. Brooklyn has never had fewer shootings than we had last year. And 6 months into 2025, I am confident that with half the year past us, in the midst of the summer, that we can actually improve on the numbers that we had last year, that we can actually get safer. As you can see on the graphics there, that's where we've been over the last several years in terms of shooting incidents. What you see is an historic drop in homicides. Homicides are down nearly 1/3 from where they were at this point last year. Shooting incidents are down by 20%, and shooting victims are down by 15%. And again, that's from record lows of 2024. These numbers mean something profound. Lives have been saved, and families have been spared the anguish and unforgettable grief of having a loved one shot. More Brooklyn residents are walking the streets with a sense of safety, and I know that is the priority for our police commissioner and for our mayor. And what's meaningful to me as Brooklyn District Attorney is what the graph also shows is a persistent and ongoing trend of decline in this violence that we've seen year after year. We're determined to continue to build on that. Today's case will allow us to improve on the conditions in two of the neighborhoods that are typically the hardest hit in gun violence, which is the 7-5 precinct in East New York and the 7-3 precinct in Brownsville, Brooklyn. So today we report tremendous success at the halfway mark. The credit goes to the New York City Police Department, to the hardworking women and men that work at the Brooklyn Prosecutor's Office, and to many of the community-based organizations and violence interrupters who partner with the police department and with our office, doing a lot of work on the ground to reduce tensions, to de-escalate conflicts, to provide services, and to offer ongoing support to our community members. This is a victory for everyone who cares about public safety. Gang takedowns, like the one we're announcing today, are an important part of this enforcement strategy in reducing crime. Unfortunately, we've seen after every one of these cases, crime is reduced. And so I say unfortunately because I wish that we had success without the use of takedowns, but time after time, shootings drop immediately following a significant gang takedown. And in this case, we've already started to take action against the shooters before the course of this long-term investigation. We've seen that shootings have been, in fact, reduced in places like Brownsville by a big margin so far this year. So I'm going to talk about this particular case now. Let's look at the accused. These are the small number of men that were responsible for much of the shooting violence in East New York. There are 9 defendants charged in this conspiracy. They call themselves R2R, Road to Riches. It's a young crew. You can see by their faces, these tend to be teenagers and older teenagers. They're based out of 398 Sheffield Avenue, which is properly in East New York, part of the Unity houses. Let's go to the next screen. Here's a map of the 7-5 and 7-3 precincts, East New York and Brownsville. I'll orient you to the green rectangle in the center where it says R2R. That is the home base. 398 Sheffield Avenue is in that area, and that is the home base for this young crew, R2R. If you look towards Brownsville, you'll see territory marked Wu and Cho. To the north, something called PPP. That's in East New York, and that's the pistol packing crew. And on the bottom, there's something called WAG, another gang that's in the south part of East New York. When you look at the map, the one thing that you see is that R2R is surrounded by other crews and gangs that are hostile to them. And the one thing that stood out to me in the course of this investigation, looking at the number of shootings that took place in East New York over the past couple of years, is that much of the violence is associated with different crews. R2R, that gang, seems to be fighting with everyone. So they're in the middle of it. You can see PPP is only about a block or two away from them. That is their primary adversary at this moment, but again, they've been fighting with everyone, and so a number of these shootings during this investigation have pointed to this particular gang beef. When you look at the consequences of this, what we're seeing during the course of the investigation, and this investigation is looking at a 2-year window. There are going to be 10 shootings that we have charged these 9 men with. One of them was a fatal homicide. So typically what we're seeing is really obscene violence, in the middle of the day where other people walking the streets. And that's the problem, I think, with this particular thing. Many people are being jeopardized by the action of such a small number of young people. So I'm going to talk about the homicide first. The incident took place inside a bodega where we allege that the defendant, Mr. King Downing, who is the shooter in this case, Javante James and Quinn Parker, as well as other associates that were not part of this indictment from R2R, were inside a bodega buying some stuff and basically hanging out. The video is going to show that at some point, and we allege that King Downing reaches into his waistband after seeing 2 people that he identifies as potential rivals entering the bodega. He pulls out a gun and shoots. Before we play the video, what you're going to also see is that the victim was peering into the bodega. He's looking. He's also waiting for someone to come and meet him there. That turned out to be his brother. and they both peer into the bodega before trying to enter it. Upon entering the bodega, Mr. King Downing shoots, and a 24-year-old man, Mr. Ba, loses his life. He's shot in the face. His brother is alleged to be involved with a rival gang of R2R, and so you'll see that, our belief is that the primary motivation in this case was gang violence. Let's watch the videos, and you're going to also pay attention to how the victim and his brother were dressed that day. Let's play the video. All right. Mr. Downing is the person that's identified by the purple circle. He's there with his two cohorts. Actually, all of them are part of R2R. We blocked out the names of the faces of the unindicted co-conspirators. They're in the store shopping. You see, at this point, with a yellow circle, there's a gun in his hand, looking at the door, and the shots was fired. Here's the victim in the yellow circle. He's peering in, waiting to go in. He's met up with his brother in the bluish circle, and as they start to go in, the shot is fired, striking him in the face. That's the person, the shooter in the purple that runs out, stepping over his body. Can we play that one more time? What I want you to pay attention to is at one moment, you'll see that all three look towards the door. They make eye contact, all three of them now staring at the door, seeing the men starting to walk in. And as that's happening, we allege that right there he pulls out his gun and fires before, as they open the door to come in. The victim and his brother are both wearing hoodies and face coverings, and they seem to be cautious before entering the location. This may raise questions, but the fact is, when the police got there, and watching on the video, neither men were armed. The victim did not have a weapon, that's for sure. And the brother, we never lost sight of him on video, and it does not appear that he ever had a weapon when the police arrived. He's unarmed. This is part of the fact of life in places like East New York and Brownsville, that many young men are very careful before entering locations. They're always masked up, wearing hoodies, because they're afraid that if they're identified by rival gang members, they will be shot on sight. That fear of young men in places like East New York and Brownsville leads to the violence in our communities. Men are afraid to go from one part of the neighborhood to another, from one basketball court to another, from one housing development to another. And it causes men who are fearful of their lives to be armed, and that makes us all unsafe. Shortly after the murder, the members of this crew, R2R, posted this photo on Instagram. You see the photo to your right. It's a social media post. The alleged shooter, Downing, is in this photo. So are some of the other members that were inside the bodega that day, Javante, Jamie, and some of the other men that were in there. The top line here, and I know it's not very easy to see, But the top line is an admission. It says, "Your homie died, them shots on us." And then it says, you know, a bunch of things. Free 98 stands for their home base 398 Sheffield. 98ers basketball team is a reference to shooters. On social media, there's always a lot of reference to basketball emojis because they're shooters. Now, typically, when someone commits a homicide or a murder, they don't want to be identified as the person who did it. But in this gang violence arena, people need to take credit for the shooting of rival gang members. And this is what you see here. This stuff here, social media has allowed gangs to antagonize, challenge, and stir up violence with their rivals. It is one of the biggest threats to public safety because as these shootings take place and people are antagonized, ordinary New Yorkers can be caught in the cross of this rivalry. In this particular investigation, the range of victims ranged from as young as 14. Mr. Ba was 24, and you're going to learn that a 68-year-old woman was also struck by bullets. There are a couple of other Instagram posts. I'm going to go through them quickly because it just emphasizes the point that they want to stir it up on social media. Social media is used to antagonize and fuel the violence in our city. The left one is from Javante Jamie's account. The right one is from Quinn Parker's account. Both are references to smoking on Ba, the victim in this case. Smoking on someone is a sign of disrespect. It's also a play on words. If you look at the post that says, "Pass the Ba," we smoke that. It's also a play on words that, you know, old-fashioned, when you smoke someone, means to kill them. They're taking credit for the shootings. They want everyone to know that they're the ones who did this. The social media continues to perpetuate violence, disrespect of the deceased, and their continuing to the cycle of opposition, inviting revenge, and fueling a senseless gang war, because that's what this is. It's a senseless, dangerous gang war. All right, let's move on to the next clip. The first clip shows a person, Mr. Ortiz, that is being charged in this indictment, and as D'Anthony Ortiz, he comes down. There are a bunch of young ladies in the hallway of the building. He's angry, we allege, because he thinks that they've been hanging out with opposition gang members. He's already had a physical altercation with some other women about the same thing, and he leaves. Let's play the video. That's Mr. Ortiz. They're showing some clothing articles because shortly after this assault, hours later, he's going to be back at that building. He's tracked here to Brownsville, to outside Van Dyke houses in Brownsville. And what you saw there is him and some of his co-conspirators were shooting at the yellow circle. Let's play it again. You see the replay. The intended targets are there in the yellow. They're two men. They're spinning the block looking to shoot rivals. They've ventured from East New York into Brownsville. You'll see them come up to the corner. Obviously, you can see a woman in an umbrella in one place, people in the street, cars in the street, and he just starts to shoot. He shot multiple times. We allege 4 or 5 times. He shot towards the yellow circle. You can actually see in the foreground that men are running away. Unfortunately, also there was a 68-year-old woman and her husband. They were going food shopping, and she was struck in the back by the bullet. Thankfully, she's recovering and is going to be okay. It's not shocking that the victim, in this case, was hit because they're shooting in broad daylight, shooting across great distances. it's very likely that they're going to miss the intended target and hit someone else. And this kind of indiscriminate gun violence is what makes people in Brooklyn afraid. And this is why this indictment is so important. And we should also indicate that these are cases that typically are getting solved without victims coming forward. This is done through the painstaking work that the detectives in the case, and in this particular case, and the prosecutors did to pull this video out and to go back and look at hours and hours of video across that part of Brooklyn to be able to identify the shooters. The next shooting we'll see is another example of gang members traveling, again, to rival territory to find someone to shoot. We call that spinning. This one was in PPP territory. You'll see this video. There's three members of R2R. The guy that's apparent to the video right now standing to the left of the tree. He identifies two rival gang members or people he thinks are rivals, and he alerts his friends. So let's play the video. He sees someone. He's going back. Now you can see him. He's signaling his friends to come. We allege that they shoot.
This has been breaking news.